Welcome to Dot Life, Dorchester's local source of news analysis and commentary in podcast format. We are here again, as usual, with Bill Forry from the Dorchester Reporter. Hello, Bill.
Good to be back. I took a little hiatus last week.
Yeah, we had
Seth Daniel from the Reporter did the heavy lift.
And he brought some of his household items with him.
Yes, I saw the Walkman. I did not know that was coming. I did not bring any antiques with me today.
Well,
my bad.
You did bring something noteworthy, which is I'm surprised you're wearing that, actually.
Well, we'll go in there. Well, I only wore it to trigger you, obviously, Erin. I mean,
it backfired because you guys are 0-2.
Yeah, well, listen, it might be my last chance to wear it.
That's
so
true. That's
I'm
true.
going to get it in while I can. But hey, listen, Madison Square Garden on Saturday afternoon, I'm sure, people are probably watching this pod and the game, because that's what I do now.
Yeah.
Now
Split
that it
screen.
exists.
Yeah.
And so let's go. Celtics, they're going to go 4-0 now.
Okay.
They're going to run the table.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
This is news only, so yeah. Have you paid any attention to NHL playoffs?
Nope. Sorry.
You're
the
missing
Bruins
out.
are way out of this thing, so I'm out of it if the Bruins are out of it. What's going on?
Bill, the Sabres haven't been in the playoffs in 14 years, and I'm still tucking it in, so you can do it.
Define Sabres? What's that?
I don't even know anymore,
I
to be
never
honest
heard
with
of
you.
them.
Yeah, it's been good, though. The Western Conference, every game went to Game 6. 2 of them went to Game 7. A couple of overtime wins. So
Nice.
it's worth tuning in if you can.
I think I saw something about that, like some last-minute goal or something that was a big deal. But like I said, I've been focused on the NBA, and unfortunately, like us, the rest of the Boston fans, yourself excluded, of course, been tormented the last 4 days. But I have a good feeling it's going to turn around.
We didn't have a basketball team in Buffalo, so I mean, we didn't really care.
I think that there's a good reason why you're living here now.
That's right. I came for the Celtics.
Sorry, Buffalo.
Which, by the way, why aren't they the Celtics? That drives me crazy. Celtic is not a word.
I think it's so we don't get confused with the team over in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
The Glasgow.
Got it. All right. Okay. All right. Well, speaking of Seth, who was here with us last week, he broke some news last week about the second church steeple.
Yep, the second church of Dorchester, the one that it's actually the oldest church in this part of the city that's still like in its original form.
Mm-hmm.
And they put the new steeple top back on, the cupola, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And it's coming along.
And then he let us know that morning that he was recording with us, the city had announced some community preservation funds for continued work on that facility.
That's right.
And
so the city announced its latest round of what is this year $38 million citywide, 52 projects in total, and I think about 15 of them are in Dorchester and Mattapan. So that amounts to about $10 million in projects.
That's great.
Yeah, it's our slice. I mean, Dorchester and Mattapan, when you think about it, it's like 25% of the city, so it computes. And, these are funds, the community preservation funds come from a surcharge on property tax, a 1% surcharge, which the voters opted in on. So if people are worried about that and complaining about it, it was a referendum that the voters of Boston passed in 2016. And ever since then, I think there's been over $225 million at this point over that duration spent from that surcharge. So it goes towards projects like the church. Mm-hmm. So preservation projects, open space, and affordable housing. So this latest round that we reported on this week includes $2 million for a project in Upham's Corner, which is already kind of in the planning stages. These projects typically have to be shovel ready to get this funding. And it's actually a really cool project in Upham's Corner, I think, which is they're building a new branch library with housing above it, right next to the Strand Theater. So
that's awesome. What a smart idea.
Yeah, the BPL has been talking about doing this for years to kind of, when it does a library project, to put housing on top or as part of it, and that's going to happen in Upham's Corner. So this $2 million of the CPA money for the Dorchester projects will go to that one. There's another $3.5 million going to a project in Mattapan, which is also affordable housing. And then there's a bunch of little projects, not little, but smaller dollar projects like the second church is getting some more funding. The Walter Baker Lofts in Lower Mills is getting, I think it's getting like 300K or so to fix its roof and some other problems there. Greater Love Tabernacle is getting some funding. And one of the projects that's funded is the field house, which we talked about earlier.
Yep.
They're getting $750K to help do some outdoor recreational space.
Okay.
So that's a really nice thing to see in this bundle.
Yeah. And the Caribbean Sports and Culture Club on Dunbar Ave is also in that list, which is
the
nice.
Unity Club on Dunbar Ave, which many people will know, like is a hot spot at night, often for parties and after hours and things like that. But has a huge following, and they're getting funding as well for improving their building. So if people want to know more, like how do you get this money?
Yeah.
Like these grants are given out annually. It goes through a committee that's appointed by the mayor and the city council. It has to get approved by the council and the mayor to get finalized.
Okay.
And like I said, this year it's about $38 million total. So, but every year there'll be other projects approved. So there's a community garden on River Street. That's one of them. People who are thinking about projects and have them kind of like moving down the line should be looking at CPA as a potential funding source. And there's plenty of information about it at the city website and also at .news.com.
Okay. And speaking of development and particularly library development, we have some news on the Fields Corner Library, which broke ground.
Yeah, the old library that's in like the 1500 block of Dorchester Ave by Townfield is getting bulldozed as we speak. So that building, I think, goes back to like early 1960s or so. It's an antiquated building, has been for a while. And this is a new project that's been in the pipeline now for a few years. The planning around building a new library in Fields Corner has been happening really intensely for 2 years now. And on Monday, the mayor was out with John Fitzgerald, the city councilor, Erin Murphy, city councilor, Nick Collins was there, the state senator, and others who were celebrating the actual knocking down of the old building, and work will now start to build what will be a 2-story library, brand new building. There's no housing with this one.
I was just going to ask you if they put any housing.
Yeah, they elected not to. I'm not exactly sure why not, but
that area could use it.
I think so. I mean, I could see you going up a little higher there.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-story building. It's going to have new amenities, and obviously, it's a library. Its main purpose, but it'll have amenities and computer access and other things for the neighborhood. It's supposed to be coming online in 2026, and it's a $30 million investment. Okay. It's a pretty sizable project.
Love to see the libraries getting rehabbed, getting some love. That's awesome.
I'm old enough to remember not that long ago when we were talking about closing libraries, 4 of them in the city, including the Lower Mills Library. Big fight. Proud to say that my wife Linda, now our co-publisher, but at the time the state senator, had a lot to do with stopping that.
Yeah, good.
There were also branches in Brighton and other parts of the city that were in jeopardy, and it was a tough time fiscally for the city, but
that's not where you cut.
No,
I'm sorry.
I agree.
No.
And it's great to see the city and the BPL system investing in new facilities. It's a long time coming. And Upham's Corner especially, like Upham's Corner literally, its current library branch is basically set up in what used to be a pool.
Okay.
And if you've ever been in there, it's kind of an interesting space, actually. It's kind of funky, but it's really old, and it doesn't serve that community the way it deserves to be. So it's great to see Upham's Corner finally getting a new branch.
Yeah. When I moved to JP, originally, South Street Library was being renovated for like 3 years, and just when I moved, it reopened. Yeah. And then I moved to Ashma Adams, and Adams Library is being renovated. So I feel like I bring new libraries with me.
Keep it coming. Adams Street Library is awesome.
It's
won a lot of architectural awards.
Yeah.
It's a terrific looking space, and for the kids who primarily use it.
And the community room is nice if you need it. Yeah, it's a great space. Yeah, very cool. Let's move on to tell me about Budzo.
Yeah, Danny Ryan. We lost Danny this week, unfortunately, on Saturday, actually. Danny Ryan was, we're going to use Latin terms a couple of times in this pod, I think.
Teaser.
Sui generis, one of a kind. Just a really... he's one of the most colorful characters that you'd meet walking around Dorchester, and we got a lot of them, obviously. He's maybe one of, I'd say 100 people across the city of his generation. You know, he was 81 when he died on Saturday down in Florida, but he's a Savin Hill native, grew up on Grampian Way. But I put him in that class of people who were really, you know, of that kind of greatest or baby boomer generation who were so wired politically and were like mini power brokers or like ward bosses in their own time, where they had such influence as neighborhood leaders and as political kind of chieftains at the hyper local level.
Yeah.
But even in that class of people, he was unique because Danny was like one of his great friends is Craig Galvin, who I'm sorry, Craig, for your loss. He was a real mentor to Craig. Many people will know Craig is a realtor here in Dorchester and just a great guy. But Craig called Danny like a three-headed horseman in terms of he was a political powerhouse at the neighborhood level. One of those guys who'd stand outside a polling spot and grab people as they're coming in and remind them, don't forget to vote for so-and-so. And there was a time when that really worked.
Yeah.
And, you know, people had suction at the local level. They helped people get jobs. They helped people in times when they were struggling. And that leads to his other real powerhouse quality, which, you know, Danny as a young man really struggled with some of the demons of alcohol and other problems that he was able to conquer himself in a relatively young age, and then just showed, you know, scores, hundreds, probably thousands of other people kind of how to do that.
Yeah.
He
and
mentored
he was close
people.
with you and Linda as well.
Danny was very close with Linda, especially because he was politically allied with Linda. She was one of the politicians who Danny took a liking to and decided to help.
Okay.
When she was on the ballot, and it made a big difference in one particular race when Linda had a very tight contest for state senate. He helped her carry his precinct, which was 1310.
Okay.
The Savin Hill precinct of Ward 13, Precinct 10. She won that one by 9 votes. And Danny stood outside that polling station on Savin Hill Ave like all day. And everyone would come in and remind them, you know, this is my candidate. And to a lot of people, that made a difference and still does.
Yeah.
You know, you think about, you know, we call them precinct captains in the political parlance. It's like, you know, the person who's in charge of one single precinct. But that can make a difference in an election.
I mean, if there's no other story that tells you that voting in local elections matters, that one should tell you. 9 votes.
Yeah, 9 votes in that one precinct, and I think Linda won that race by a couple of hundred votes total. But we've had elections in the city where one vote did matter.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, Julia Mejia, the city councilor at large, won her election. I think it was 5 years ago now, her first election, by 1 vote. And it went to a recount, obviously, but it does matter. And the last thing I'll say about Budzo, and by the way, Budzo is his nickname, obviously. He also called a lot of other people Budzo.
Okay. A
real throwback kind of term. He was just a real neighborhood person. Like he took the 23 bus. Like he didn't drive. He was engaged at the local level, and he cared about everybody, not just somebody who was like an Irish Catholic like him, growing up in Savin Hill of his generation. He was also a court officer.
Okay.
So he encountered thousands of men and women, but mostly men, in their kind of most troubled moments in life, and invariably helped them.
Because he drew on his own experience of having alcohol.
Yeah,
problems.
I think so. He definitely he believed, as Craig Galvin would say, that, you know, everybody deserves one more chance. You know, not a second chance, but one more chance. You know, everybody's redeemable, and you know, that was the legacy he left. He really has a deep and lasting impact in our neighborhood. We're going to miss him.
We'll miss him. Yeah, definitely. There was some news today in the reported that we've got a new resident on Malibu Beach. Yes,
we probably more than one. They come in pairs, and they're called piping plovers. They're a species of endangered birds.
Okay.
And this is not the first encounter with piping plovers, but it is.
You say plovers. I've always heard it plovers. Is that a Boston buffalo thing, or is that?
I don't know. I didn't look up the pronunciation. I just let it come naturally.
Somebody will correct us if we're wrong.
They always will, as you've already found in your podcast career of the last month.
Yep.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. I made a mistake in our first report about these birds. last week, in which I said they're also known as oyster hunters.
Oyster catchers?
Oyster catchers. American oyster catchers. And made sense to me. They live on a beach, but turns out there are different species of bird that are American oyster catchers, and we've since corrected the record thanks to our readers who never fail to correct us right on the spot.
We're not going to get it all right, that's for sure.
But these birds they live as couples, and they
like for long term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding. I'll probably get corrected on that too, but yes. And we've run into them before because they also nest in South Boston on like Carson Beach and the Pleasure Bay.
And Willie too, right?
Yeah, Wollaston Beach as well. There's a large section of Wollaston closed off right now. So between March and September is their nesting season. That's a long time. It's
That's our beach season.
Peak summer beach time, but increasingly they're an endangered species.
Yeah.
So they need to be what the DCR, which is the state agency that controls the beach, they rope off sections of the beach, say you can't come here. This is where the nests are.
Yeah.
No dogs, and dogs can't go on the beach anyways right now.
Right.
They're not supposed to.
Right.
You can have a dog on leash like in the fall and the winter, but not in the season anyways. But they're really worried about humans and cars because the stretch of beach by the gas tank, which is where these latest piping plovers have been spotted nesting, is where a lot of people pull off. You've probably seen people pull off there with pickup trucks and they take their jet skis and they hit the Dorchester Bay right there. You can't do that right now. Yeah. You can't bring vehicles. So not to mention people who like to go with their canoes and like smaller crafts and push off.
Just avoid the plovers or the plovers.
You got to be careful, and you can't miss it when you're driving by Morrissey or walking or bicycling. Now you'll notice the section roped off, but they also had to rope off a big section by the L Street, Curly Community Center a couple of summers ago. This is not the first time. So, but hopefully they'll hatch and they'll have some new. And hopefully they won't be endangered much longer. That's the whole point of this. So, but for beachgoers, sunbathers, etc., jet skiers, keep an eye out. You can't go on that stretch for now.
And if you see a nest that looks like it might belong to a plover, then give the DRC a call. DCR,
they're keeping an eye on it as well.
Yeah,
that's also right by where we talked about this before. The new stretch of the Greenway is supposed to open up, but we have been told recently, making some news here, it's not going to be this month apparently.
Well, probably not now with the plovers.
Yeah. Well, that too. I'm not gonna put it on the birds though, Erin. Like there's other people involved in this. This is we're talking about the stretch of the path. There's a new bridge there that's coming off by the gas tank, and unfortunately, it's not ready. There was some delays, we're told, in some of the parts that are needed for sections of the Greenway. That they're saying later this summer now.
Oh, okay.
Later
That's
this
too bad.
summer. Yeah.
It looks pretty close, though.
It looks super close, yeah. So we've asked, and we're going to keep asking the DCR. And I would just tell people, give them a little call, too.
Yeah.
And say, hey,
egg them on.
What's going on?
No pun intended.
Yep. Yes.
And then we've got one more story today, which is it's Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah.
So what's going on for Mother's Day?
Well, first of all, happy Mother's Day to everyone out there, including my wife, Linda. And what's going on in Dorchester on Sunday, and this has been true for the last 29 years, is the Mother's Walk for Peace, which is a 3.2-mile charity walk that benefits the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, which is named for Louis Brown, who was unfortunately shot and killed on Geneva Avenue in 1995 at age 15. His mom, Tina Sherry, started the Peace Institute not as a living memorial to Louis, obviously, but as a way to help other survivors deal with that aftermath, and also to try to prevent other homicides by really getting at the root causes of the trauma that tends to lead to the cyclical violence that we do see, unfortunately, in our neighborhoods. The Peace Walk, though, is really Tina's public effort to, marshal support and get people to hit the streets in a way that's really it's inspired by peace movements going back a couple hundred years, really, in the American context. But here in Dorchester, this is now the 29th year. It starts and it ends at Townfield.
Yep.
You get there early. It's like an 8 o'clock registration time and actually hit the streets at 9. And it's an hour and a half. Like you have time still to go to brunch if you're worried about taking mom or grandma out that morning, or even making church or something else. It's like a 9 to 10:30 event, and it is a lot of fun. You're going to see a lot of neighbors there. People organize walk teams to raise money because it is a fundraiser for the Peace Institute. And it's really a nice moment of healing for a lot of families that are still struggling with terrible events in their own lives. And sometimes, it's a way of healing for folks whose family members were involved in violence too, a way to kind of join together. And I think it's one of the things that's helped. We talk about Boston being a city that's seen a decrease in violence and homicides. We've had, ups and downs with that, but one constant over the last 29, almost 30 years now is Tina and her family and the Peace Institute, and they deserve a lot of credit, along with the police and another activists in our community. But Tina's really been at the vanguard of this for a long time, and Dorchester people recognize that there's going to be a lot of people out on the streets on Sunday.
It looks like there's going to be great weather. And
oh, good.
A couple of days before, it looks like not so great weather. So hopefully the current forecast stays and they get 66
all the
and
more
sunny.
reason. And
Sunday.
you're walking down some beautiful streets in our neighborhood, and it makes a loop. It's a gorgeous time to check out, the neighbors' yards. There's some amazing and sometimes people sleep on sections of Dorchester, but you walk down the street and be like, wow,
there are some sneaky cool streets that you don't know are there until you turn down them, and then you're like, what town am I in? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, do you want to break some news?
We talking about the new pontiff?
Yes.
I think by the time this airs, hopefully everyone's going to know that. I've already getting texts from members of my family. People are excited about this because it's the first American pope.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to remind me of his
I'm going to have to look
name.
again. Yeah. His given name is Robert Francis.
And
I was going to say Ron Francis, but he was a former Penguin.
Okay. Man, you got hockey on the brain.
I do.
He's from Chicago, from the early indicators we have here, and his pontifical name will be Pope Leo the 14th.
Okay.
So I guess from early indications is that he is definitely in the same mold as Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, who died now 2 weeks ago. One of the things is this is a pretty quick decision by the Cardinals.
Conclave. Yeah.
And conclave, there's the word I was not thinking about. Great movie, though.
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's really good. Yeah, we need to watch that.
That is like the number one movie right now, I think, on all the streaming services for some reason. But it's also a terrific film. And the other thing, he was born in Chicago, but is also a Peruvian citizen and was a missionary to Peru. And there's a lot of history of Boston priests going to South America, Latin America, Central America as well. And, our priest, the priest who married Linda and I, who was at Holy Family, Father Bill Francis, was also served in Latin America, originally from South Boston. So there's a lot of back and forth. And I think people in Dorchester in particular, and Boston at large, the Archdiocese here, will be pretty excited about this choice, the first American.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, the indications I've read so far, and to your point, it's super early, that he's a little more withdrawn as a personality than Francis, but definitely morally kind of on the same, mindset. So
some more really of a good progressive.
Yeah,
and they chose the right American. There was another American who I think was lobbying for this, and thankfully he didn't get it. So
isn't the first rule of becoming pope is you act like you don't want to be pope or something?
Yeah, somebody should have told our president that. Not that I can't believe that was even a thing, but I mean, it was. It's crazy to say, but
yeah,
they picked the right guy apparently.
That's
the
great.
Right American.
That's awesome. Go Popes. Go Cardinals. Yeah,
as long as it's not go Sabres, whatever that is.
Oh, jeez.
But good luck, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. We need it.
Go Celts.
Clearly.
That's all I got to say.
At least we have the Bills to hold on to. What's coming up next week?
We're quickly going into these amazing spring events. We talked about the Mother's Walk. We have the yard sale coming up, which I think you're going to be talking about
next week,
soon. The Ashmont Hill yard sale, which we love. It's an amazing event. I know people who are actually, they plan their travel around when that happens. Like, they're not going down the Cape that weekend, or they're not going anywhere. They're staying local because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, if people don't know what that is, Ashmont Hill Yard Sale, there's a terrific article on the Reporter site now by Jennifer Smith, our former news editor, and she'll be there. She's a fanatic about going to the yard sale. A lot of people are like that. You got to get there early, though.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
This is coming up on May
17th.
17th.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wonder if Seth is going to be there poking around for more relics.
No question. He's one of the guys. He's an early bird on that one.
They got some 80s electronics he can bring in.
He should bring his own. He's a trip. Seth, by the way, is like, what a jewel he is, and a terrific reporter. I was happy to see him in action on your pod.
Yeah, he was great. It was fun to have him. We'll have to have him back. Dorchfest too. Thanks for all the support you guys have given, by the way. But that's coming up on the 31st.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that. A lot of people are talking about Dorchfest this year.
That's
I think
awesome.
this pod is helping too, and having the tiny dot desk shows is like giving these artists another way to shine. So keep that up, and like, we're excited. That whole weekend, let's hope the weather is great again. But that whole weekend's shaping up to be a great party again.
I got to give your son John props for naming the tiny dot. That was his idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, John. All right.
Nice job, John. Thank you.
You'll be taking my place soon enough, so. He's got to hurry up and finish his finals this week. He's at Boston College, so.
Go, John.
All right, Johnny.
Once he's done, he's coming on. We're going to have him on for something. So.
You heard it here.
That's right.
John Forry to the rescue.
All right,
and he's
Bill.
probably going to be wearing, I stole this from him, actually.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
So he'll wear that on next.
Looks familiar, right?
Well, thanks for coming in. We'll look forward to next week's paper, and we'll see one of you guys here next week.
Thanks, Erin. Good to be here.
Yeah, go next.
Okay, you can say it.
All right.
No. No.